Hey guys, Kyle, the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for One Piece episode 939. And oh boy, this episode was definitely an emotional punch in the arm. And if this one was an emotional punch in the arm to me, then next week is going to be an emotional gut punch. Because, yeah, this episode pretty much sets the stage for the death of Tono Yasu, or as we come to know him, his real name is from Shim Otsuki Yasui, a loyal retainer of the Kozuki clan, a loyal longtime retainer of the Kozuki clan, and the Prince Daimyo of Hakamai. And one thing about this episode is that even though we have yet to see the actual death itself, one thing it did show us through just that flashback alone, through that flashback of Yasui and Odin, is how even in death he has not changed at all. He has not budged on his principles or his ideas throughout all these years. He has basically remained the same person, which has simply been someone who thrives on helping the people of Wano. Not only just because he wanted to keep the memory of the Kozuki legacy alive, but just simply because he had this undying devotion and love for each and every person that lived in this country. And he never stopped because he knew if he did, that would have been the death of Wano itself. And you can just tell in his words to the people. You can tell just in his words to the people and just his speech as a whole that he was basically telling them all to keep living, keep pushing forward, and never stop caring. Because when you do, that's when Wano truly dies. Like in some respects, you could pretty much say that basically that Yasui's speech to the entirety of Wano is a speech we've heard a dozen times over in a lot of other One Piece arcs. But with what makes it special here is that just in the way it's delivered and the circumstances of it, it holds such weight because we know that Wano, in many respects, is physically dying, and the only thing keeping the spirit of the country alive at this point are the people. Like, they really are the ones who are trying to hold on and keep everything going. Well, pretty much keep everything going until they hopefully one day reach that day where everything can in some way can basically return to a time of prosperity where Wano was a much more thriving country, and not what it is now. His final words, even down to the reveal of him lying about being Ushimitsu Kozo, and what's even more too is his final words, even down to the reveal of him lying about being Ushimitsu Kozo, was basically to pretty much give them renewed and lasting hope. Like it was his final attempt in order to keep everyone's hopes and dreams alive. Like that was his final and last like true from his true stand in keeping everyone together, just like he's always done. And he did it despite knowing he was facing down death itself. And not only that, but his final words, also, whether intentionally or not, also had another effect, which is that it not only helped in order to reinvigorate everyone's hope and belief and hope as well as hope in the future, but it also helped to breathe, well, basically new life into the rebellion, as you can pretty much tell what the setup is here. Like, it's like like Yasui's death in itself is pretty much inevitable, but his death is going to act as the linchpin or the fire starter that's basically going to bring everyone together at long last. Like his death is what's going to be is what's going to pretty much unite the Prince Akaze and Nine and just the whole rebellion as a whole. Like it's going to bring everything together. Um, and yeah, but yeah, Yasui is, but yeah, like I said, if like his, it's weird because in some ways he hasn't even died yet, but I feel like he has. Like he really did. He basically has died, but his influence is going to continue to live on past this point. Um, and honestly, even though there were a lot of parts about this episode that were obviously padded out just from the fact that we didn't get the actual death, one thing I really have to give a large chunk of this episode, more specifically the parts focusing on Yasui, was that there was this genuine atmosphere to it that emotionally pulled me in. Like the only other way I can describe it to you guys is that the atmosphere in this episode gave me a sense of euphoria where I'm obviously very I had this real kind of guttural, like my guts were kind of tied in a knot and kind of just and really kind of emotional at the fact that yeah, this is going to be like from Yasui's last stand, but at the same time, I this feels like Yasui feels like a person who has long prepared himself for death and just wanted to do all he could before his time eventually got there. And so it like it's one of those times where you can tell this is a person who has lived a complete life and he's ready to die now. So it's one of those deaths that you're sad he's going, but you're also happy for him in some way. It's really weird, but you can just this isn't a normal death, basically. Um, the death because you could tell just by the fact of him helping the citizens of Wano for so long, he's lived a full life. He's lived his life and he's ready to die now, which obviously it's gonna suck for Toko though. Like that's the only part I'm really sad about in terms of his death is that this is gonna break Toko for sure. Like she's basically losing her father, which yeah, Toko, I know the feeling. Trust me, I know the feeling what it's like to lose that member of your family. So yeah, um, and yeah, and now I guess where I'm a little more critical of the episode's pacing and not showing us Yasui's death in full is if next week plays out how I think how I think it does, at least just based off the preview, I'm gonna be twisted into an emotional pretzel of both mourning Yasui's death even further and possibly raging at another little plot point that's soon to be revealed. Yep, yeah, because the preview even says itself. We pretty much get the preview even says itself. It's not revealed. We're basically going to get we're basically going to get why there are so many citizens who have a permanent smile stuck on their face, including Toko and Yasui, which I'll tell you guys this much: either one of three things is going to happen. I'm going to rage, like I did when I read the manga. I'm going to feel feel a little bit more sympathetic towards. I'm going to feel a little more sympathetic just from my knowledge of the manga. Or number three, which I think is the most likely one, I'm still going to have a bit of a rage moment, but because of my knowledge of the manga, I might I think my rage is going to be a little bit more tempered now than it was before. Like it's one of those things where I'm not going to be condoning what's going to be revealed. I'm not going to condone anything of what's revealed next week, but I think knowing what I know of the manga, it's going to be a let's just say I think I'm going to be a little more tempered. Let's just say, looking back on how we've gotten to this point, I think I'm going to be a little bit more tempered now. Um, Now, getting into a little bit into the flashback itself, I could be wrong, but I think they might have extended it a little bit, which is one of the better things they did with the episode, as I feel it did make us feel that extra little bit more sympathy and sadness towards Yasui, even though at this point in time, I don't think it was really warranted either, because Yasui has proven up to this point the kind of character he is. There really wasn't a need in order to emphasize that, I don't think. Um, Also, art and animation for the most part in this episode was relatively good, but I do feel it was in those Yasui moments where it was like great, almost like you can kind of tell this episode was one of those where all the where you can tell all the focus of where they needed to make this episode look amazing was in the Yasui moments, and everything else was just kind of okay, which I'm all for, but at the same time there were a few off-model moments that were a little distracting as well. Um, and yeah, and another thing I think this another another thing that I think this episode did that the manga didn't, but it's kind of one of those changes you kind of expect because the anime expects that you've read the manga, which is that this episode, even though he was largely, I guess, in shadow, this episode did give us early premature reveal of basically Odin, and yeah, you can see he's definitely his hairstyle is just and well, while he looks like a cool character, his hairstyle is very unique, as you can see for sure. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Mr. Crunchyroll. Death Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.